Bernie. I want to say welcome to you, Bernhard Krausse, and to anyone who's watching now or later from around the world, maybe years from now, because this will be a video that will be an archive. It will be a legendary moment in time. And welcome to Live with Tania. I am so honored. You're going to hear my voice less in a moment here because I am so honored to welcome my dear friend who has made history as the first known hiker after to complete the Great American Rail Trail. He
Yeah.
walked 3,700 miles in 130 days. And I want to start at the beginning. I don't want to go into the history. I want to start with this part, and then we're going to go backwards. And Bernie, I thought about how I want to open this show. If you're all jumping on, you may have seen a picture of Bernie at the Washington D.C. reflection pool. And what was the date? Was it March 28th?
I believe that is the date. Yes.
March 28th. Bernie had been there. Give us the political landscape, what you experienced when you were there, but most importantly, that moment in that picture by the reflection pool as you were about to begin this epic hike across America from Washington, D.C. to La Push, Washington. Can you just share what that moment was for you? And then we're gonna kind of go backwards in his journey, but starting with the most recent, because he just made history. Google says the now famous Bernhard Krausse. So honor to
Well,
you, sir.
I think that's a good point to make. Is that in a sense we're all stars waiting to be born. We all have some fame to embrace and embody. So we have to master something that we're moving through. So we're all disciples of our own truth until we master it, in a sense. And so the idea is that we're all living a lie until we actually break free of the prison of lies that we are in. And so what is the lie and what is the truth? That's a part of the journey of understanding through life, I think. And as we associate with politics, it's like maybe there's a combination of lies and truths that are out there, or maybe it's all a lie, and maybe it's all a truth. It depends on one's point of view, and that everything is relative. So from the reflection pool, you have the Capitol building, the epicenter of what it means to be an American. And therefore, what is an American? So for everyone, they're going to have their relative truth about what that is. Just as we're born and we go, I desire love. Well, what is love? And then you go through a whole series of experiences that redefines what love is until perhaps there's nothing left but love itself. So maybe we all are tested with a bunch of lies until we actually just start to embody truth and just live from truth. Or therefore we go from the third dimension, being tested in the fourth dimension of time and space, entering the fifth dimension of the here and now beyond time, meaning we're present to anything that's in front of us. We're processing fluently without delay. We're not having to be something outside of us. We don't have to prove anything to the world. We're reflecting directly in the mirror of life. And so at the reflection pool, I see the Capitol. That Capitol isn't outside of myself. That Capitol is within me. It's my Emerald City. It's my center of my own personal kingdom or constitution. And yet, I think we don't realize we each have our own personal constitution. We have our own philosophies and don't even realize it. And they therefore dictate what we experience in our lives. And so we could change the rules. We could amend things. We could delete things. We could stretch them. We could contract them. We could get more pressurized. We could become more expansive and more relaxed, depending on what we focus on, what we reflect on. What we reflect on, we invest upon. If we look at the Capitol and we say, oh my God, that's the center of what everything is wrong, or we look at the almighty dollar, it's like, is this something for great potential, or is this like, the buck is, stops here, this, everything is because we're worshiping money, right? So what's going on? Where are we putting our attention? How do we define something? What is the Capitol? What is our soul? What is our truth? How do we attain freedom? How do we find love within ourselves or for the world outside ourselves? What are we running away from? What are we moving towards? It's a part of yin and yang. So
Absolutely. And if anyone's jumping on right now, I am honored to interview Bernhard Krausse, who's just made history walking across America from Washington, D.C. To La Push, Washington, the first known hiker to hike all the way across the United States. And if you're jumping on right now, he had started his journey for this, and we're going to get into many other hikes. He is I've always called him, the only comment I can ever make on on your Facebook, Bernie, is endless epic Bernie. But I want to go back to the beginning of this journey is a picture which is on our interview thumbnail of Bernie. And please talk about, you were there right at the time of the march, right? Didn't you start this walk? And
Right.
which march was it? Let's mark history here and a timeline for everybody in America. So when people look back at this moment in time, please capture for me what the march was, what was happening in America.
Well, that's a good question. It's like, again, that's the past. I process the
That
past.
is the question,
Well,
right? What is happening in America? But I won't
but
get this
yeah,
into politics. But give us
but
an overview. You were at a march. You were
yeah.
there.
Well, I mean, my point is that it's like, that seems like forever ago. That seems like lifetimes ago, but it was only 5 months ago. So it's like, did I learn from that event? And if I did, is it on my mind? So you put it back on my mind. So I have to reflect on it. It's like, oh yeah, that happened, right? Because it
And
seems
what
like,
was it? What was the march?
yeah,
What was the march you were
I
at?
believe
So
it's called the No Kings March. Is that what it's called?
that's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
And so it was weird. It was like a circus of something that's going on in my psyche. It's like my psyche going psychedelic. It's like, here on one part of the mall, there's people flying kites. It's a kite festival. Here in another part, they're setting up for some kind of trans recognition gathering or something. And then people are getting their kites stuck in the trees, and I'm actually helping someone get the kite out for the kid or something. And then there's all these different groups and family groups, and suddenly I come to the Lincoln Memorial, and thousands of people start like converging on the reflection pool of what it is that's happening there at the Lincoln Memorial. And it reminds me of like Forrest Gump, kind of just showing up and being immersed in something, getting pulled into something and having to express his own truth. And it's like he's just in what he is and he has to process it, right? And he tells his version of the story. And so that's life. It's like we get pulled into different atmospheres and we have to process it. And it's not by accident from my point of view. It's all kind of like a push and pull electromagnetic kind of event that puts us in the right place at the right time to deal with reflections that are within our psyche. And so there's the turmoil then of what's going on in this country, maybe what's always been going on in this country. And so there's always a pull between the left and the right, the liberal and the conservative, the male and the female, the positive and the negative. So
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. And that moment with you sitting at the Capitol, it was just you. And that's what was so powerful to me about that picture. It's you in this moment of calm, in this moment of reflection by the reflection pool. If you're jumping on, this is Bernie Krausse, who just walked all the way across from Washington, D.C., made history, made history. I want to make sure that I'm saying, I want to make sure that I'm saying the name of the trail, the Great American Rail Trail. He just walked 3,700 miles in 130 days from Washington, D.C. to La Push, Washington State. And this is not the only time I have been friends with Bernie. I reached out to Bernie through Messenger. He was in Dunsmuir. I was in Santa Cruz. And he just had this radiant light. And I'm like, who is this person? And it was shortly, I'm torn on do we start going back in your history and lead us to this recent trail, or do we begin with the trail? What's calling you right now?
well, when I started the trail, it was basically a convergence of everything that I've ever experienced in life coming into one journey. And so everything I learned from different timelines, different personality aspects, different relationships, the things that I came out with those attributes intact and incorporating them into my own personal set of behaviors that so I learned this, I incorporate this. And then if I incorporate that, I have a new behavior, a different action, a different reaction. I have a different point of attraction. It's like I change my vibration and I suddenly see something new in front of me. So it's like a dream that begins to morph. So every time we complete something in fulfillment. When a circle comes to completion, when we absorb an atmosphere, when we have an aha moment, then we reconfigure, and then we attract something new from my point of view. And so this trail represented me coming into fruition to be able to see America with new eyes. And so in a sense, like the positive and the negative, or the yin and the yang, Washington, D.C. is one point, the negative point, and then Washington State is the positive point, and I'm supposed to do a circuit. Within that circuit, I'll have a bunch of reflections, a bunch of trials and tribulations to kind of ease my way through with grace, to accept it, to process it, to deal with what's in front of me, because it's always for me. There's nothing against me. The ego might be tested because there's pressure on the system, and go, I don't like that pressure. Oh, how do I deal with the pressure? I go into the pressure. I go into the fear. I go into the disturbance.
And I'm going to jump in there because now you're at the heart of a big part of what my show is that tool for human beings, whoever watches this now or later, those tools that you might have awakened to that can help us ground and anchor to our inner calm when the ego and the mind is pulling us into those distractions. Now, when you are walking 20, 30 miles alone, and we may all think, oh, look at that peaceful time and look at all that landscape, but the truth is you're navigating the road within. You're navigating the road within. And I bet there were moments that were not peaceful and not calm and may have been scary. And you were tested. I read there were moments with no water along, some of your prior hikes, you had long stretches with no water. That when society and humanity comes into those moments of discomfort because of the entrapment of the ego, what are some of the tools people can awaken to help them move through that? Because that was really important, what you just said.
Well, for instance, I mean, there's many different approaches, and it depends on where we're stuck, basically, because it's like everybody's maneuvering different ways because we've placed different parameters, different definitions, different defense systems, different mechanisms to move towards something or away from something. And so the idea is that when you said, okay, I had no water, let's say I didn't have water for 40 miles. Was I suffering? No, I wasn't suffering. Was I suffering maybe in past trails? Yes.
Yeah, I picked up the water when you just said that.
Right. So water represents spirit. So the idea is like, oh, I have no water. If we think we have no water, your physiology reacts to having no water, and therefore you suffer. But if you say, I am water, and therefore you hold on to water in a different way, because you're not saying I'm leaking water, I'm expelling water. It's like your physiology responds to your belief in a sense. So how we define reality matters. And so, like you said, what's the word uncomfortable? Well, a lot of people say, I don't want to be uncomfortable, but it is what it is. And so what is uncomfort? It's just like, I'm feeling a little stressed, or I'm feeling like there's a little bit of lack, but then you go, I have what I need. I see the outcome. I surrender to the movement. I know where the next water will be. I know that I could go without it, but at the same time, I'm not going without anything. I'm here right now. I'm taking this next step. I'm taking this next breath. And so I'm not paying attention to what could go wrong. I'm embraced with what I'm right, with what I have right now. And so there is never anything wrong. It doesn't matter how far away the next water is. It's like you could say, okay, this is a obstacle course. There's hurdles here, but I know to go under the hurdle, around the hurdle, up and over the log, walk on top of the log, get off the route altogether and circumnavigate around it, or just wait until it disappears or whatever. There's no right answer. It's just that how we deal and describe the situation has an effect. So the idea is that after all these years of walking, this becomes the conduit or the channel where I see that everything is for me, it's perfect for me, and I'm walking in grace. And if I feel any turbulence within that conduit and that channel, it's like riding the rodeo. It's like, why do we watch? Yes. Why do we watch it?
We'll jump into that story in a moment. Yeah. Or so, right now, because it came up right now. Let me just say, Bernie on his journey, I invited him to Pendleton, Oregon, Letterbuck. And my ex-husband, who's still a dear friend and father of our daughters, came to meet us and gave Bernie what's the hat say?
Letterbuck
hat. hat.
Yeah.
So Bernie Krausse has the letterbuck hat, and it went on part of your walk. So I moved, but the moment showed itself. You said hat, there it was. We're talking about the present.
Right.
So it was so cool that you got to come to Pendleton and experience this
It was
area.
great.
And
Yeah. I get to see you in your home base. I get to see, you in relationship to everything that you know, basically grew with your family, with your relationships, with the influence of the land and how,
yeah,
and the influence of the culture and the subculture that you're within, that we all experience, but you have your specialized version of that, influencing your everyday actions, testing you,
yeah.
and you giving the best of yourself into that arena. So in a way, life is a rodeo.
Right,
And
it is
so,
the letterbuck.
yeah,
That's right.
right. And why do we want to
Back
watch
to that.
somebody on a bull or on a horse? Is because with the right with the right mentality, with the right focus, we enter a stream of turbulence that represents our emotional chaos. And so the bull itself is like, it's anger, it's unpredictability, it's like calming the beast by seeing the beauty of the moment. And so if we think something wrong, we're going to get bucked.
Yeah.
But if you have the right mentality, it's like, I'm going to take this repercussion wave, and not, if we don't, it blocks out of our system, and then we fall off the horse, we fall off the bull. But if you accept every wave as it comes to you, whether you like it or not, with the right mentality, it's like, this is for me. This movement's for me. Oh, this is a awkward movement. I've never experienced this movement before. I've never, it's like even like a dance, right? I've never done this twirl before. I've never done this, flip or whatever. I have to, it's like a different dance move, right? And we have to like be ready to reflect upon it and not fight it, but to merge with it at its center point. And the moment you do, the turbulence calms down, the bull calms down, the horse calms down, because that's the point. You become a bull whisperer or horse whisperer, is when you're empathetic with the emotion and become one with it, and you lead it into a compassionate state of just pure being and stillness. And it's like, wow, they did it. They aligned with their truth. And so they weren't focusing on the fears. They're focusing on the balance. They're focusing on being one with their opponent. And until they become the bull, until they become the horse. And that's the way of life. And so it's a metaphor for life itself, just as everything is,
Yeah, everyone, can we just take a breath together and breathe for a moment? I want to integrate some breath, because what Bernie is saying is so important. He opened also that there's this fame within all of us. And I wanted to circle back to this because it goes to the bull and the riding and the one. But there's also mastery. And then he talked about, you have to take an action. You have to take movement. So many people, Bernie, and I've been life coaching for over a decade, are talking and not manifesting. I've just manifested 3 podcasts, 2 audiobooks, 2 books, my wellness wave. I've been in flow state because I took the action. So many people are stuck in story of talking about this dream they have, right? What Bernie encapsulates is somebody who has literally walked through the present. Every step you've taken on thousands of miles. I've been watching you walk for 4 years, but just walked across America 3,700 miles. If you're just jumping on now, this is Bernhard Krausse. Welcome to Live with Tania, and he's the first known hiker who has walked the Great American Trail from Washington D.C. to Washington State to La Push, and he's made history. And when I think about what you have done with the amount of walking that you've done, you just said it. Every step was your mastery. And your mastery, like the bucking bull, was your alignment to your present. So in a way, we could almost do this interview and never even talk about the other hikes. I do want to talk about the other hikes, but there's something so much deeper than the hike itself.
Well, it's not about the hike. It's about the journey.
Not about
It's
the hike. It's
yeah,
not about the hike. It's about the conscious awakening.
yeah. But the idea is that the pilgrimage or the long distance walk is my means to process life. it's my means to move through my fears that I've held, my inhibitions, my anxieties, or my misinterpretations. It allows a person to go from a limited belief system into a greater belief system, and eventually allows one to collapse belief altogether to be in the present moment. And so there's a successional stage to it all. And the more every trail that you encounter or engage within has a different lesson to be learned from it, or a different personality aspect that wants to be retrieved. And then eventually, once you kind of get the hand of, organizing what's on the mind and being able to be present in the moment, when you can have that emptiness, that stillness of being, then you're tested to an even more extreme level, which is to deal with the emotional state, to process emotions that we don't think are relevant or that we dismiss, like anger and grief and despair. And the only way, so we almost don't have them in life. We go, I don't feel that. Well, it's because they're locked in a compartment.
Busy, because living in the busy becomes a distraction from dropping into the stillness, right?
Yeah. In a sense, we inherit these emotions, and to understand the full human experience, to graduate from the school of being human, we have to match frustration. We have to match anger. We have to match despair. And what does that mean? It's like when people get through these emotions, it's like the conduit from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. They're like a polarity. It's a channel. It's a positive and a negative. It's within everything. It creates an electromagnetic field or a circle of energy or that we need to process. We have to breathe in that atmosphere without any resistance. And what causes the resistance? The definitions, the judgments. This is better than that. I want this. I don't want that. That's a polarity. And so it creates dissonance. It creates the turbulence. It creates the emotions. And so it all has to be seen in context that it's all equal. It's all important because it's all a part of the system. And the moment you see something different in it, the moment the system changes. So we're responsible for everything. So we try to control people, circumstances, anything outside of us. If I do this, if I tweak that, if I shut that person up, if I encourage that person, then I feel better. But that's one way of dealing with it. But then we're still within the system. It's just shifted around. The currents are just moving in a different way. But in order for our true dreams to emerge from this chaos, from this belief system.
There it is. For the true dreams to emerge from the chaos, what is the focal point? I want to jump in because what this is all bringing up for me is the majority of Americans, and I might be taking a day job again too because it's choice and I want to serve my community. Not everybody is going to get to have the gift of time to be able to walk across America. But here's what I think you're saying is so much deeper. It's not about the hike. So what I would love your guidance for is for anyone who might be jumping on now. Maybe they're feeling stuck in their job and they're feeling that constriction and they're showing up maybe like a robot, waiting for Friday, counting how many years till they retire. What would your guidance be to so many people to flip that script, to show up at work maybe in a new way, right? Maybe it's not about leaving the job, but what is the job showing them? How can they, or it can be the same for relationships. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we leave the relationships, we leave the jobs. They're no longer allowing us to grow in the way that we need to. But for so many, I've been life coaching for, like I said, over a decade, and so many people are stuck, Bernie. So many people. My show is about intentional living and those tools to ground to our inner calm, which is what happens for you when you walk, right? 20, 30 miles a day. You're faced, Bernie had the courage to face himself. And I've been meditating very deeply my last 2 years. I don't go to birthday parties. I don't go out to restaurants hardly ever. I don't socialize. I have very consciously taken space to meditate, to be quiet, to not socially engage unless I have to go out for work or I do, these moments on social media. And it's been transformative for me because I'm such an outgoing person. And now I say no to the social engagements and I drop into quiet. It has been in the quiet that the transformations happened at such a deep level in these last 2 years. And like you just said, none of it really matters. It's all for us. And when we're not comfortable, it's because that's our moment of transformation. Be in the discomfort. Yeah. Be there. So you don't like your job. Sit in that.
It's like 9 to 5. It's like, or take this job and shove it. So it's like, but wait,
How can people? Because not everybody can. Here's what
yeah,
I'm saying: not
right,
everyone
right.
can leave their job, right?
No,
And
exactly.
sometimes it's hard to find work, and they have families, and they've got to feed their kids.
Right,
And no,
exactly.
not everybody's going to take the leap. And what I always do, I have a disclaimer, Bernie, because I'm always leaping. I'm always leaping. So my disclaimer is don't everybody go quit your job after, you hear me talk or see my show. That's not what I'm saying here. But people can begin to take movement towards creating change. Go back to school if you're not happy. Apply for new jobs. If the relationship isn't working and you've tried your therapy and you're walking in the house and the house isn't a sacred sanctuary, then what do you need to change?
So here's a scenario. Here's an idea of how to look like you're in a job and it's mundane or whatever. What are you going to do about it? Well, people are following what they think they should be doing. And so they're following predictable actions. So what can you do? It's like, okay, I'm allowed to listen to music. I'm going to change the music. Okay, it's going to make me feel, it's going to shift vibration because I'm listening to different words, different tones. It's because sometimes we're listening to music that keeps the status quo because it's like, oh, well, I'm listening to a song for the 10,000th time. And the reason why I am, because it actually has a message in there to actually, if I actually understood the message, I'd shift. Otherwise,
Right.
you wouldn't listen to it over and over again, right? So, because then you go, what's the next song that I need to listen? Oh, why does this song keep popping up? You have to question reality. It's like it comes in waves. It's like, why?
And claiming
I
like the federal claiming the breaks to walk, like claim them, be disciplined, take your
yeah,
federal 2 15 minutes, walk on your lunch, get
yeah.
outside, listen to a new
So,
song.
well, that's it too. It's like, okay, when you're walking to the bathroom or you walk into the cooler, or you walk into the fridge, take a dance step, twirl. It's like people go, what's wrong with that person? It's like you're right. So you're releasing some kind of feeling into the environment, which is an atmosphere. Therefore, you've altered the atmosphere. Instead of you're conforming to rules and regulations or a protocol that, oh, everyone's doing this, so I should do it. It's not safe to do something outside the norm. What if you do? What's going to happen? Wait, that person just shifted their position on their desk. The other person just put their legs up on another chair. That person came over and talked to me, and just because I did something different. And so you mix it up, right? And so you do things that come from your feeling base. And so because the reason why the pressure builds, and if we don't act on a feeling within the environment we're in, then we're freezing. It's like you have fight, flight, or freeze. So you could fight it and say, this is bullshit, I'm leaving. Or it's like you could run away and say, I don't want this job. Or it's like I give up. And it's like you just, it's like you get pinged by the triggers in your environment or by the people within it that represent certain things to you that you actually don't like, but you're dealing with. The energy builds up in your body and your system. Yeah. It gets inflamed, and suddenly you have a disease because you did not process
it. You didn't move it.
You didn't process what's in front of you. It's like, so the person that you hate the most, or the person that bothers you in that environment the most, is the person you have to dance with. You have to meet them without worrying about, you meet them in a calm way, or you say something that you actually like about them, and then you start there. And then, because the reason why we don't like something is because they actually have something for us that we need to incorporate into our being. But it's not seen because it's in the shadow. The darker side's coming out. But if they were to come forward and you were to come forward, or anyone, right, into the dance, and then you spin a few times and you go, oh, this is what I was looking. And then if you have an open heart, it gets off of the mind or off of the plate, off of the atmosphere. It comes in through your heart, into your soul, and then you get reconfigured because you took a new spirit, new essence. You completed a lesson plan. And then things might open up. Wait. This is important. This is important. It's like the moment you actually process what you were supposed to learn in the environment, you're actually, suddenly doors open up and you get a better job, or you get something that's more exciting because you faced your demon. And then it's like, or that opens up, another wave of contemplation and energy mixing. It shifts the dynamics of your atmosphere. And then you have the next demon or the next fear that you go, oh, thank you, you're there. I'm not afraid of you. I know the fear I defined as move away from, bad. No, fear I move towards in excitement, in anticipation. Okay.
I jumped in right at the most important part. I apologize, and I'm working on writing it down. When
I
you
babble a lot
inspired
too.
me, he
I
inspired. No, I'm working on it. That's my demon. I'm as an interviewer. I gotta just be quiet, but I'm
I
gonna
could go on
zone in now.
forever. So
Listen, no, but you were right at concluding the part. But the tip of the wave that I wrote down was completed the lesson plan. So everybody, if you're jumping on now, or Bernie, a lot of times people will watch these interviews later because they're sitting there. So if you're all jumping on now, later, maybe 10 years from now, right now it's 2026. You know what? I need to start saying the date. No, really, because this becomes an archival library. So it's August 16th, 2026, and I'm with Bernie Krausse, who has just made history. He is the first known hiker to walk across the Great American Rail Trail. He's walked 3,700 miles from Washington, D.C. to Washington State to La Push in 130 days. And it's interesting because we have been live now for 30 minutes. And what I'm noticing in this interview is and I do want to go back, and we will talk about, he is a double triple crown of hiking. He's hiked the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, and now adding the Great American Rail Trail makes it, he's done now the Grand Slam of hiking. This is a man I've watched walk for like 4 years. He walked El Camino, he's walked Europe. And the only thing I could ever write on Bernie's Facebook is endless epic Bernie. But what I love is that we've been live for 30 minutes, and what is coming up is consciousness.
that's something I realized myself, that it's all about moving from an unconscious state to a conscious state, from a place of greater awareness, by integrating that which is on the mind. You only become aware of something when you pay respect to what's on the mind. So anything on the mind is a sign that it wants to come into your heart, which means the awareness state is what you like or what you don't like. It's an attraction. It's a positive or negative charge. And so you take the charge and you neutralize it and you say, no contest, or, the court dismissed. There's no guilt involved. It was a misunderstanding. You take the energy that you're in likeness with or that you're against, and you bring it back home into love. And so the idea that there's only consciousness, but it's shadowed by doubt, it's shadowed by lack, it's shadowed by fear, it's shadowed by lack of self-worth, it's shadowed by trauma. It's focusing on what's missing, because I used to have this, I was in love once, but the love is ever present. It's just, we've put a blanket over it and we go, it's dark. But that love is us, it's in everything. So it's like the quantum field that's smooth until we entangle it. And so imagine that there's wormholes everywhere. There's strings and string theory. Every intention creates a string. Every focal point is a string between you and the thing. It's like the silver cord between, our spirit and our soul, or this body, in a sense. And there's these strings everywhere. There's these wormholes everywhere. And so the idea is that that wormhole, or that fixation, that fact, that certainty, that pillar that we think is true, distorts the energy that's right here, right now, and deflects it away from us, because we're not open to experiencing life 360 degrees. Suddenly we have linear thinking and we go, I can only focus on that, which is money, which is job, which is family, which is career, which there's nothing wrong with anything. But then we go, well, why don't I get what I want? Why can't I feel love? It's because we've defined reality to be less than what it really is. We're looking at it like, I really miss that loving state of being open here in a 360 degree manner, because I'm locked into 1 degree of truth.
Well, and I love, you've said so much there. Something that just resonated deeply was when you said the quantum field is smooth until we untangle it. It's like we're born as this clarity, this clearer, and then our ego, it's science, right, jumps in and starts creating the drama and the stories, and then we go through this whole journey of life trying to resolve the trauma that our ego and mind created and that life situations created. And then I'm having an interesting moment, because because you were talking about linear thinking. I'm a journalist, right? So I have my notes of linear thinking, right? Here
Yeah,
are
yeah.
the we've got the linear thinking. I was going to go Great American Trail, and then I was going to double triple crown, and then the Grand Slam, but then something else showed itself. So in the process of hosting this interview, I consciously said to myself, let me just watch what happens. And think about that, everyone. The line Bernie said, he said everything Bernie says is contemplative and brilliant, and comes from such a deep place of that reflective pool in DC. And my show is about intentional living. Like, you are walking with intention, but that line just resonated so deeply. That quantum field is smooth until we untangle it. And really, the we is the ego and the mind. That's who's creating this entanglement of confusion when our life can be simple. That's what I'm finally coming to, Bernie, is how simple. I have never experienced such peace. And I released the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is just another emotion. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm glad. But when we come to peace, it's like the river and the rock outside my balcony. The peace is being able to move through the discomfort with higher emotional intelligence. The peace is, oh, look what's coming my way. I got to face that fear. And how am I going to respond to it? Right. And along your walks, this is I wanted to dovetail to this. I did a road trip yesterday. Okay, Bernie, let me give a little context here. I woke up yesterday and I got on the road and I did what I love doing, which is I wake up and I say, I have no idea what's going to happen. Well, I ended up in a car museum in Shaniko off High 97 that I have driven by there 20 years. Bernie had no idea it had cobwebs, and it had like a 1918 Studebaker or 25 Studebaker. All these old, it was like the ghosts. You could feel the ghosts of the stories from the cars. It was incredible. And I turn around and I'm in the middle of nowhere off Highway 97. You know Highway 97, the journey through time.
Yeah.
And I meet a couple from Northern Italy. And they're
Nice.
telling me about their friends who had to evacuate in the fires. I mean, we are in a crisis, but these fires, and then I drive and I get to Biggs and I'm at the Space Age gas station. I meet all the firestorm crew, all the firefighters from Chico, California, who were driving back to Chico from Montana. But again, there was the tie to the fires and the conversation around the fires and I don't, I'm bringing up the fires because I want to be present and honor so many people I have friends who've had to leave their home. 300,000 have evacuated in Europe. Sicily has burned. I want to honor all of that, but there's such a reminder, Bernie, right? Like in these fires, it dovetails to that quantum field is smooth until we untangle it. That these fires are a reminder to us, Bernhard Krausse, that, oh, we forgot to do our different languages. We were going to speak different languages. Maybe we do that at the end. That nothing's permanent. Like Buddha said, our greatest suffering comes from attachment. And when you see people having to leave their homes, and Spokane, Washington, and those weren't wildfires, that was arson. That reminder, though, and for some reason I'm feeling called to ask you what you feel these fires symbolize. Did you experience any fires along your hike?
Well, definitely. I experienced two major fires, but let's go back to, the fires themselves are just a symbol, and so just as everything is a symbol, you're a symbol to me. I'm a symbol to you. Whatever you lock in is a symbol. And the idea is that behind the symbol, behind that item that we're attracted to, has some message or some essence that needs to come into us. And so we collect things until we get the story behind it, or we include it into our bigger story. So, and then we don't really need to see it anymore because it's within us. The spirit has been incorporated. So that's the same thing with the person. It's like sometimes we go, oh my God, that person's gone out of my life. No, the reason why they're not there is because something's been transferred and you're bringing them with you to the next arena. And then you might actually meet them again, but in another version of yourself where they represent something new to you. Or it's like they'll always be with you with what it is you learn, because that contract, that contraction point, that attraction point has been collapsed back into knowingness, into one's personal truth that goes beyond words. Because what is truth? It has nothing to do with words. The words point to the truth. And the truth is to be in alignment with the feeling. be in alignment with an experience, be in alignment with an emotion. And so one could say, from a higher point of view, from a divine point of view, there's this stillness, there's oneness, there's a singularity. But once there's a duality, there's a this and a that, a me and a you, a male and a female, a yin and a yang. But in order to resolve that, we find ourselves on one side and looking at the other side. And then if we master that one side, suddenly the next relationship, we're on the other side. We're like, oh, I'm seeing through the eyes of that person that I was with before. Or now I'm seeing through the eyes of my mother or my father. I'm becoming them because I rejected some aspect of them. But when you actually understand them without judging them anymore, you're released from it and you enter another phase of reality. And so the idea is that our definitions create, in a sense, there is no meaning in the universe other than what the mind gives it. And so that's why things change. The meaning changes as we change, or something doesn't mean anything anymore, and therefore that object disappears from the playing field altogether and it goes extinct. Or it goes into the museum, and if anybody needs to check it out because it's part of their lesson plan, they can. But for someone else, it's meaningless because they've already absorbed what it means. So whether in this lifetime or another lifetime, right? And so what one person needs to focus on, another person doesn't. And so that's in the schooling system, we are learning things we don't need to learn because it has nothing to do with what it is we're going to be attracted to in the future. So sometimes the process of life is to unlearn what we've learned. But going back is that when we put meaning into something, it doesn't mean love anymore. It means something less than love. And so we've densified an object or a situation, or we shadowed it with less than love. And we say, this equals this range of frequencies. And then you put it next to another range of frequencies and you link the two together in your mind. Then they start spinning and they cause a current to go in between each other. And then you do this, you compound this by dozens, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions, infinite amount of things that we defined. And they cause these positive spins, negative spins. They cause orbits. They cause different perspectives. Like I get thrown up here now, I get thrown down here. It's like the turbulence brings us everywhere because of what we defined in meaning. And so the lesson plan, eventually for someone who wants to transcend the human conditioning process, because those meanings are conditions, because this equals this, and this is a fact. This I know for sure. But if you suddenly go, I don't think I know for sure anymore, and you walk around the fact and you go, oh, it's a relative, everything's relative. Then you start saying, I'm going to send this back. I forgive this. I let go of this. I see the love in this. And then you start clearing your psyche and then you have more clarity. And then suddenly it's like you realize it's through stillness that you process change, because change is ever present. It's like when we resist change and we say this definition happens, then it causes pressure in the system. It causes pressure in the environment. So there are traumas, there are tragedies, there are things that we label as bad, but they're for us. They release us. They make us change our perspective. Somebody dies. We have to face feelings that we wouldn't face before. Maybe that person processed feelings for us. Now we have to process it ourselves. So there's this constant exchange. But if we are stuck in a certain persona, in a certain ego state, then we're forced out of it when something pushes us into a new position in time space. So we call it something bad, something evil, something terrible, when it's actually for the benefit of all. It's like, what happens when there's a fire? You rebuild. You come together in community. What do we put in its place? I didn't talk to you before, but now we have to do something. We have to create a new idea. We have to work together. We have to look at it from different perspectives. It shifts the playing field, and it causes us to actually flow with the currents that are here right now to redefine our space or to reinterpret what we're going through.
Let's all exhale. Let's inhale.
I don't even know if that's all understandable, because these are just words pointing to something.
Bernie, be in the breath with me. Wait, be in the pause. Be in the stillness with me, because that was a flow, and I took notes. So everyone take a breath. If you are jumping on now or later, what is phenomenal is what we are hearing about is conscious awakening more than what it was like to walk across America. So what it was like to walk across America was conscious awakening. How's that, Bernie Krausse? But here's the thing. He has said so much, and I'm working on not interrupting. And did you watch? You have this natural closing place. I got quiet enough to not feel the need to jump in, manage, control, change the direction of the interview, go back to my linear thinking. But I want to talk about this. Everybody, he's talked about that we all have this fame within us, every single human being. And we have to become a master of something. And then along the journey, we show up in our lives and we have this lesson plan. And that every situation, and I'm just reflecting back what I've captured from what Bernie is sharing, if you're jumping on right now, and that through every single, whether it's work, relationship, there's this curriculum. There's this lesson plan that we as humans have to move through, and it may not be fun. And that's where transformation happens. And when we can get to the point that we get off the gerbil ride, which is what Bernie's been doing, walking. This man has walked like for 4 years, ever since I've known him, since 2022, and he's been walking way before then. But within that stillness arrives conscious awakening. He said things like the quantum field is smooth. That means our life path is smooth until we untangle it. And the mind and the ego that wants us in constant trauma. And then he talked about that linear thinking and the power of being in alignment with emotion. And that we can shift. We can go on the walk. We can change the song. We can say hi to the person at work we may not normally say hi to. And then Bernie talked about there are two other things you said that I wrote down that really, really touched me deeply, which was there's no meaning other than what we define to it, right? There is no meaning. And here's the most important thing that I heard Bernie say. And it's something, Bernie, that I am in now, myself, in my own evolution, which is there's a quotation from Bernhard Krausse, who has just made history, the first known hiker to walk across America. That's back to my linear moment. But Bernie said something that it's through stillness that we process change. That's it. Bernie, I constantly talk about that we are in the greatest pandemic in America, and I call it the pandemic of I'm busy. People are so busy. They're too busy. Busy is the greatest excuse to avoid getting quiet, to be able to master something, and to get quiet enough to hear the calling to what you're being called to master. For me, it's been my writing, my audiobooks, this podcast. This has all been an evolution of 2 years of quiet. That as a society, we need to shift to the stillness so people can awaken to the change that's calling their soul. So I really thank you for that powerful line, which is through stillness, you process change.
Yeah. So
You've had a lot of quiet. I mean, you've had a lot. Talk to me about that. That's something so everyone, if you're watching, Bernie's my dear friend and I've known him for 4 years and I've been watching him walk and walk. And the only thing I can ever comment is endless epic Bernie. And the other thing that I've always asked Bernie is what pulls you to keep walking? Is there a mission in it? Is it that mastery? Like that mastery, that becoming a master. You are a master hiker. You are a master hiker. You have made history. And I want to honor that. I mean, this is a huge deal. I mean, you have walked the Appalachian Trail. You have walked the Pacific Crest Trail. You have walked the Continental Divide Trail. You have walked the Great American Rail Trail from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. And please share where in Europe you've walked. I've just gotten America. And you were walking like 20, 30 miles a day for almost 4 years with a maybe a few days break. I'm going to see my sister. And then suddenly there you go again. What? That's amazing. You are a master hiker, walker. Honor.
Well,
I mean, receive that. Receive that because you have done the work. You have been disciplined, you have been focused, you had an internal compass pulling you, and you walked in grace through it all.
All right. So imagine that we live in a dream. And then if there's no doubt, if there's no distortion, there's no uncertainty, and you know that you are playing with yourself as a reflection in the mirror, then life is like a basketball hoop and I'm at a free throw line. I should be able to swoosh it every single time. But what makes me not do that? There's a man standing over there. There's a person in the audience waving and booing me and cursing me. It's like there's these things that throw us off balance because we think they're outside of ourselves, right?
Distractions,
and so,
right?
You're right. So the idea, we've seen all this before. It's like you have the golf ball, you have the hole, you have the club, you have yourself. When everything is there that you need to get the ball into the hole, the idea is that the hole is not separate from you. The ball is already in the hole. The hole and the ball and the club and my body are all one. And there's no distraction. Anything that's outside of us goes away. It goes silent. You don't notice it. You're in the zone. What matters is what it is that you're intending to do. Because if we go, oh, there's a war happening way over there. Oh, I'm reacting to the war that has nothing to do with my life right here. If I were in my mastery, there wouldn't be a war because maybe more people would be in their mastery if they're in their dream. And suddenly they're not engaging in war because there's nothing to be against, because it's not in our face that there's a war, because there's not a war in me. But if I believe there's a war, then maybe there is a war in my psyche, right? So the idea is like you push it all away or you dissolve it and you just focus on what matters. And that's your world. That's your container. Look, I just got a hole in one. Look, I just swished it. You're not trying. You allowed it to happen because you're imperfection already. And we get exactly what we want. I missed the basket. It's because I wanted to miss the basket, because I was pushed around by some turbulence, some emotional distrust. And so the idea is that I don't walk anymore. I just create an intention and I go along for the ride. It's like riding a horse. And so the idea of trying. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I do want to jump in. I go along for the ride, and I would love you to share where you've walked across in Europe as well. But when and then, I think about yesterday, how I met the Italians, how I met the storm fighters from Chico coming back from Montana, and you go along for the ride. That was a perfect dovetail. I would love to hear some of the human stories that have touched you. Like, you're on this ride, you're on these 20, 30-mile walks, and then you encounter a human story, a lesson, an encounter, a takeaway, a message from a little town that you're walking through. I've talked to you many times where you're like, oh, I'm sitting with these great people and I'm at this little cafe. I'd love to hear some of the human stories of people who taught you along the way. What were you meant to see? What were some of the human stories that helped you awaken to something new in yourself? And definitely let us know where you walked in Europe. Let's do that, and then let's dovetail to the human stories.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to finish off with human stories, like every interaction is going to represent.
We're going to start with the human stories. We're not finishing it off. Let's go.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
That's going to lead to the Europe thing. Let's.
Okay. So perfect.
It's like we have interactions with people not by accident. It's because there's something about that interaction that they're attracting that makes them excited, and something about me that puts me either in excitement or at ease, or it shows something that needs to be pulled out of me that I need to hear for myself to integrate, or it satisfies an intention that I've been allowing to process through me. So, so my premise is that I'm moving towards wholeness, oneness, being, to be a human being and not a human doing, or to move into a new state of consciousness and awareness, to actually become maybe what we're saying, maybe we're in the process of becoming a new species. Because it's like, because we're turning on.
Well,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to bring it back though to the question.
All right.
Wait, so
We're
I'm
good to
getting
go now.
linear. I'm getting linear. I'm
All
getting
right.
linear. So let's look at this last hike,
All
right?
right.
All the way across America.
All right.
And just bring yourself back to when you were leaving DC. And maybe just let's shed light on three stories. I remember there was one you ran into a man who was on a bike and you were in the middle of
Oh,
way
yes.
out in the country somewhere. That really jumped out at me. Can you share that story that I remember seeing and where he was from again and the story three
Yeah.
let's share three stories about there are no accidents that you met some of these people along the way
Right, right.
and what you learned from the interactions. I'd love to hear that. Three stories.
So I think you're talking about Max, who was actually from Austria.
Yes, yes,
He was from
yes.
Salzburg, and I was just in Salzburg last winter, although it seems like 20, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And because I had walked across Europe. Okay, you got it out of me, right? So,
Ah,
and so last winter, I completed walking from, well, first of all, I walked from Barcelona on different routes, different caminos, going on, make my way to Santiago, not on the fastest route, but kind of going this way, that way, whatever route called my attention. I eventually went to Santiago, went to Finisterre and Murcia, jumped over to the English Camino by bus and walked to Santiago again, then walked to Porto. And then I flew because of circumstances to Budapest, Hungary, because it's a long story, which we won't go there. But because of what happened, I got to a place like I had always wanted to walk across Europe from Budapest. And the previous year, just out of nowhere, when I had finished walking in the wintertime to Finisterre, I turned around and I took other caminos across Spain, walked across France, went to Switzerland, where my mom lived on the Camino, Jakobsweg. So there's different names for it. The Camino de Santiago. Santiago means St. James. Jakobsweg is St. James Way. This is the way, the way of St. James, right? So, and we could talk about what that means anyway. It's all symbolic, but and so I wanted to honor my mom by going back to where she first saw pilgrims when she was young. She's all, who are these people? What's going on here? They were on their way to Santiago because they went right through her village.
and they were coming from where? Where was her village, your mom?
Her mom, she lived on Lake Zurich in a place called Houten, and in kind of the north central part of Switzerland, in the German speaking part. And so, but I had always wanted to go do it from Budapest because my mom was actually born in Austria. So it goes towards what Max is about. So Max is from Austria. And the place that I had been to in Austria before, the only time was in Salzburg too. And then I had gone through Salzburg on the way from Budapest in Hungary, across Austria, a little bit into Germany, back into Austria and into Switzerland. And then I came from the other direction and finished at my mom's house where she grew up, creating a circuit. It's like an ancestral circuit. And so to me, it helped me process what it means to be European, what it means for my mom to have lived and felt what she might have felt in these different places, but in my own version of it, where I could finally feel comfortable at home in Europe. And my dad's from Germany. And so again, it's like, okay, my parents were from somewhere else, but they came to America. But so why did they come to America? What were they moving away from? What were they subconsciously looking for? What does it mean for me to be born in America? Am I an American? Am I German? Am I Swiss? Am I Austrian? Am I European?
You and I, but we both have that parallel, you and I, and I'm
Right.
going back to the Netherlands in that same thing. I have dual citizenship with the Netherlands and American, and my father is between both. And yeah, we have that same,
Right.
we're of two places. We're of two worlds.
Right. And so I saw, it's like, am I even a human being? What is a human being? Is anyone even actually being human or humane? Because even the word human has this connotation. It's like the you is like, it's like the spectrum. It's God itself. It's like a hybrid between a God and a no God in a sense. Are we being human? Are we being humane? Are we one with our divinity? And what does it mean to be in sin? What is these ancient religions talking about? What we grew up with as being a Catholic, or I don't know what you were, but it's like, these things are in our psyche and they need to be processed. They need to be reframed. They need to be seen with new light. What was the conditioning for my parents to come to the United States? What's the conditioning for the conquistadors to come to America in the first place? What were they subconsciously looking for? And I say I found it. And I'm going back to Europe next week, and I'm going to bring it back and install it into the atmosphere that is European, in a sense. But from my version, not that my version is complete and that it's true, but it's true for me. And if I feel at ease as being an American now, and I'm also a European, I'm also a human being. I can live anywhere on the earth. I could be at peace. And so I offer that peace by grounding it into the earth.
Oh, I didn't know that circle of going back to the house, your mom's house. And what I want to thank you, this brought up for me personally, when I now return to the Netherlands, I definitely want to interview my father just privately about, and I've never asked him, and I'm half a century into this life, like what called him to go to America. And then he was, honored as a Ritter, which is equivalent to knight by Queen Beatrix for being like the Dutch mayor of New York City. And he was networking all the Dutch who came to New York. But what was that fire, that calling? Because I'm a first generation American. No, my mom was born in Connecticut and was between Europe and America a lot. But for understanding that duality, that what is America? And you open this interview at the Capitol with the question of what does it mean to be American? Who are we as a nation today? I want to invite you, Bernie, to just take a breath, all of us together. My show is also about just integrating breath, intentional living, grounding to our inner calm, tools to ground to our inner calm. And if you're watching now or later, I just want to honor that Bernie has walked across America. He has made history. He is the first known hiker to walk the Great American Rail Trail from Washington, D.C. to Washington State, La Push. And I have watched Bernie move in this space of walking literally for 4 years. In the beginning, I was like, oh, you're like Forrest Gump on steroids. But Forrest Gump stopped. But Bernie kept going. Bernie just kept going. And are you feeling called for another walk? And or do you not? No, I know it's not good to talk about plans. Let's just talk about present.
No,
I'm not going to even ask you that.
Going. This is leading towards something. I'll reflect to you what it is you're
Okay.
trying
But
to
the
pull out.
journalist in me wants to circle back to, I keep feeling the number 3, because I know you've had so many encounters, that every encounter happens for a reason. What are 3 moments in this last walk, the Great American Rail Trail? People that ended up possible teachers for you about yourself along the way. 3 encounters that might have really touched you, shifted you, and made you think about who you are as a man and who you are on your journey. Where were you? What town? Bring us to the landscape. Your photography. Oh my gosh. Anyone who's watching, please look at Bernhard Krausse's photography on Facebook. You can just click his photos, but also his writing he wrote every day, just these eloquent passages of his experience. And I mean, it's a novel all right there on Facebook, and captured America from all times of lighting and day. I'm a photographer too. So the photography, everyone, if you're watching now or later, please go to it. Don't delete your Facebook, Bernie. Please don't ever delete your photography. Is like this incredible, you capture these moments in time, the landscape of this country, this vast country that we have, that when people live in cities, New York and LA and Chicago and Philly, that we forget this vast landscape that we have across America. And I feel that watching you has reminded me, and I live in this incredible vast land here in the Pacific Northwest, just driving 97 yesterday. I was just in awe, like, of this vastness, right? But to walk through that vastness Who were the humans who showed along the way? Like yesterday, the Italians I met in a barn, and the storm fighters from Chico, California, driving back from Montana. Let's hear a few of your human stories that opened your heart along the way, like Max.
Well, I'll pick three real quick. So let's say Max represents someone.
And there's no real quick. We got time.
Yeah, he represents someone on a journey as myself, and so he's a kindred spirit in the sense that he was from Salzburg. He's an Austrian. I have Austrian background, and I mentioned in Hungary because my mom always talked about Austro-Hungarian, because in a way all these regions had their own flow between them because there was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so the borders were different. And when you have borders, we go, well, they're imaginary, but they actually create a dynamic because you cross the border, there's so many different rules, different regulations, different customs, and you could actually feel the difference if you're open to walking across that. It's like, oh, there's a different kind of current in here. And the bigger the distinction, like between cultures, even if they speak another language or whatever, it's like you adapt differently to the currents because they take you to different places. And so if we try to control it and say, I'm uncomfortable with this, so it's like, I need to have like a tour that's going to alleviate my fears, and I have a tour bus and a tour guide, and they create a buffer or a place where you could kind of almost like look through a glass in an aquarium. But the idea of a Camino or a pilgrimage is to immerse yourself by jumping into the pool. You're jumping into the sea of consciousness. You're jumping into the turbulence, and you're grounding every moment as you go through. You're taking a new action to a reaction that you would normally do something else. And so as you relive something as you're walking, it's like you're not reacting in the same way, but you're processing it by actually grounding into the earth with the physical action. But we get into the zone, right? And the zone is the runner's high. It's that place that's beyond the tit for the tat or the beta to the alpha. You go to a theta state of being. You go into a place of hypnotic acceptance. And that's the place where you can re-script it. You could see something more by stepping out of the trigger, the victim or the perpetrator response or whatever. You rise above it in this conduit of change, in this conduit of flow. And then you could see it because you're not involved in the turbulence, you're not in the chaos. You could see it from both sides and ground it and forgive it and let it go. And then you clear your psyche. There's a freedom to it. And if you come from another country and you go into these places, like Max was in the United States, it's like you don't know the rules. You might not know the language really well or at all. And so you're more of a watcher. And so you're processing.
Where were you, Bernie, when you met Max on the bike? It was from Salzburg. Can you tell me where you were?
Yeah, I think I was in Nebraska on the Cowboy Trail. And so it became a place of, it represents a place of big transition because I had gone through the East Coast and the Midwest, and there's a high percentage of trail. And then the Cowboy Trail has bits and pieces here and there. And it was during a road section of it. And he was surprised to see somebody walking in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right before that, these giant windmills were coming through. It was kind of surreal. It was like several trucks of different pieces. And so that's like a symbol of like free energy. It's like this tapping into the winds, the current of change, the great spirit that blows through everything. And I'm a dream catcher taking in the wind or the breath of God.
And
right?
there was Max on his bike from Salzburg in the middle of Nebraska. Yeah. See, that's beautiful. And again, what he symbolized to you in one sentence. There was so much, but so transition, right? You said transition.
In a way, he's my European home base. It's like he's part of that ancestry that's coming to explore America. And I do the same thing. I think I'm an American, but maybe I'm equally European. Maybe I'm not both. Maybe I'm equally even Asian. Maybe I'm even African. Maybe I am the entire Earth. Maybe I'm the entire solar system. Maybe I'm the entire galaxy. Maybe I am the entire creation. If I allow myself to have that energy flow through me by becoming what it is that I see in my mind's eye. Because we can become anything that has our attention. And that's where the transference happens. When we lose our ego self-identity, when we take our barriers of belief down, when we take our shields and armor down and are just purely naked in the moment, when we just trust, then all this energy flows through you and you're vitalized. It's life force. And you realize you are not the persona, you are the life force that goes through all forms. And so it's a reversal of understanding that you are what you attract, because you're not even necessarily that form, you're the energy that goes through all the form. And that we are just responding and thinking that I'm feeling this, so this is me. You're doing this to me, or the environment's doing this to me, so it's outside of me. No, everything is itself at once. It's one organism. It's like going into a cell and go, well, there's this organelle here, and there's this nucleus here, and there's this, whatever. But it's one cell. It's one organism. The Earth is one organism. The universe is one organism. But they're all separate at the same time. Just as they all have their individual consciousness. If you could see it, it's sentient, because it's getting your attention. It has something to process. It has something to tell you. It has something to exchange. Otherwise, we wouldn't see it. And so Max represented this no man's land between, I'm going from a place of conformity, or it's like business, and then a place of agriculture, and now I'm in cattle land, or I'm in a place where nothing could be grown, and then I'm moving into the real Wild West, where things are open, where you have these vast views, where there's new possibilities. But there's new possibilities everywhere, but the West is more representative of more openness than the East is, because the East is more the place between Europe and America, and the West is more a place between that which was always wild, or that which is indigenous, and where we're at as people coming from other places to occupy the land. And so so what's really being asked of us is to balance Europe with United States, or what it means to be American, or what Americans say they are, and what they lost in what they did, and how they conquered the land, or they conquered the indigenous, because they all have something they want to insert and blend with, because there's no accident. It's always a blending. And so there's a give and take in that for everything. There's a learning for everything. It's like all sides are trying to harmonize into something where we could all respect each other. And the moment we all respect each other, and we know we're one, and we have a common vision, then we all go out in different directions and say, what do you see from there? And you report back to the hive, or you automatically report back to the hive, because there's no separation. So that's the story I'm going to say about Max. Let's put that.
Max. Amazing. So if you're jumping on right now, or you're watching later, I'm interviewing on Live with Tania, YouTube podcast, Bernie Krausse, who is a phenomenal friend and human being who has just made history, being the first known hiker to walk across the Great American Rail Trail. He is a double, triple crown, and now Grand Slam of hiking. He is a master. He is truly put in the miles. He's walked Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide Trail. This walk across America in 3,700 miles in 130 days across the Great American Rail Trail now puts him in the Grand Slam of hiking. He opened the show about talking about becoming a master of something, that we all have this fame in us. But what is fame? It means awakening to our highest potential. It means doing the work and committing and being focused to do the work. He's talked about through stillness that you can process change. And then what I'm asking him now, in all of this walking, he shared about walking the Caminos and how he circled back to his roots in Europe and his mother's hometown and house, the physical house in Austria. What does it mean to be an American? What does it mean to be European? How does that all merge? And then the question that we're in now is, I asked him, in all of this walking, what were 3 human stories that really, we've talked about Max, and come to the next story. What were 3 encounters that showed you something really important? Because the human story is very important. And what we learn, not only from the landscape and walking, but the interaction. So what really jumps out at you along this last walk across America? Who's the next couple or group of people or individual who showed you something about yourself that you were meant to learn on this walk?
I mean, there's so many. Basically, every interaction, every point of contrast is a place of
Just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Just close
Right.
your eyes for a moment. Feel the walk.
Well, let's go into Washington State and into Ellensburg.
Okay.
So I was actually close to where you were at. And actually I had just come through eastern and central Washington, and I was coming into the Columbia River, and there's a bridge there, and it's just south of the I-90 bridge, which people can't walk on. So this is an important bridge to cross. Otherwise, I'd have to go to the Oregon border, I think, to cross something, because there's not a lot of bridges across the Columbia, right? So,
right.
And so that was one of the days where I actually walked 39 miles with 4 liters of water, and it was literally 100 degrees out, which is it is what it is, and that's the whole point. It's like, I'm not going to define what 100 degrees does to me, right? So, and if I do, then I will suffer, so I've had plenty of experiences living in different situations where I'm in minus 40 degrees or 120 degrees. And so I have to harmonize with it without judgment in order to go, this is the new norm, or the norm is whatever it is I'm absorbing in the atmosphere right now without judgment. And therefore it has no effect on you. And therefore I evolve. The moment I stop complaining about something and I actually embrace it is the moment that my genes change. I have a new genetic coding, right? So the DNA alters, right? So I'm now a mutant, right? So, but yeah,
and who showed up in Ellensburg that taught you something about yourself?
So the moment I got across the bridge, I walked into the hills, and like 2 hours later, 3 hours later, a fire came and destroyed the town I was in and closed the bridge.
I saw that. Like, you had
just
made it through. You had literally just made it through before the fire. Literally just made it through.
Yeah, and I mean, there were fires everywhere, but there was a few areas where I had to go around too. So, but that one was just like, it's like the next morning I'm looking, it's like, where's that fire coming from? It's like, oh, it's coming exactly where I was at, So, and so in a way, I was ready to move into another dimension because I was allowed passage, and almost like the passage closed behind me, right? And so it's a gatekeeper. It's like it has energetic meaning to it in a sense. And so I enter another domain, and I enter Ellensburg, and I'm invited into this house, and it's on top of the hill. And there's no.
But how did you meet the people who invited you in the house? Like, you got, like, tell me that part.
Well, they
were they following you on Facebook?
Yeah, they're following me on Facebook, and they're all, oh my God, so you're coming through my hometown. That trail, that rail trail that's been converted is just down right below us off the hill that we live on. And so they had so she was there. She happens to live there temporarily in the summer times with her father. And her father was an archaeologist, anthropologist, and he based himself out of the university there in Ellensburg that I walked through right below where they live. And so it's almost like, their house represents, it's above what the creation and the immersion of what it is he went through in life. And, he went into different cultures. He went into Mexico and studied the indigenous and what that meant to him. And
so did you meet them, and you got, did they meet you at the trail?
No, I walked up to their house, and I
was going to say, you just walked to their house.
And it's like, I texted her, I'm outside your front door, and it's like, she's there.
I love it. See, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. And so I'm welcome into their place, and we talk about, so this is what happens all the time. It's like, I don't just, it's like right now with you. It's like everyone has a different, it's like.
Yeah, you're in my house.
Yeah, I'm in your house. You're pulling out of me something it's like we're pulling out energy from each other in different frequency ranges. And the words don't even really matter. They allow energy to untwine, to allow the flow of energy to expand our own conscious awareness, because it really has nothing to the words. The words point to opening up. So they're almost like magic words. The words actually close us down. Only the words can release us and untwine us so that we have a connection. And so
I do want to stay with the words on the. I write about energy transference in my book Choose Peace.
Yeah.
And I'm right there, but I do want to stay in the words of this story that you walked up to a house. They were following you on Facebook. I have asked Bernie just 3 human stories that showed him something significant, but there was also a nature story. He
Right.
literally got through and the fire ended up behind him. It was like a
So
passageway, you know?
it's almost like the old world is restructuring behind me wherever I go. As long as I complete it, it collapses in one way or another and it reforms. Because if I accept it, then if I walk through an environment, if I go into a house, if I talk to you, if there's an actual exchange, you're transformed, I'm transformed. It's a butterfly effect. Your room is transformed, the atmosphere is transformed, your community is transformed. It's a butterfly effect that goes out from here to eternity because we have resolved the tension. We've gotten through to each other in a place that we were compartmentalized before. And so for every house I enter, or for every authentic and genuine discussion I have about the human condition, about our feelings, our emotions, okay, if you look at it from this point of view, or if, it's like, so every moment is a self-help session in a sense, because we're helping ourselves to grow, to see from a new direction, to have a new interpretation, to let go of something, to move towards something, to have permission, to gain new insight, to expand in our awareness. It's all the same, right? So the idea is to elevate the conversation, to go where we have never gone before. There's always a new frontier. And the new frontier happens from the inside out, not from the outside in.
I think this is going to be dovetailing us to our closing. I love that. But I'm writing this down for when we close. Hold on. There's always a new frontier. And what did you say right after that? That second part was so important.
The new frontier
I know.
happens. The new frontier is always there if we live from inside out, but it's
There it
obscured
is.
to us if we live from the outside in. So if we're basing all our decisions based on what someone else says and from
External.
somebody else's experience,
And
then we will never
that's
get
where
anything done.
and that's where it is so, what's very interesting? And people may watch this interview later. This is super interesting that we've had no comment, not one.
Well, there's someone there. There's only us
No,
in the universe.
what's
Like
so
that nuclear
powerful?
matters, right?
I don't want to put it out there, but we've had no trolls, no negative comments, no positive. It's like we're in neutrality. It's like this interview is in neutrality. It's been at zero. It's been hi everyone. Maybe there is someone watching, but there's been a calm, and that's that energy just when I said that 3, it went up to 3. But what's interesting, my intention is I hold space with non-attachment because I know that this interview will be seen now, years from now, by whoever's meant to see it. I want to go back with a breath to this moment where you walk through the fire. You didn't walk through it. The fire ended up behind you and you had a gateway. What did it symbolize to you, this family opening their home to you in Ellensburg? What was the lesson from that exchange? And then I want to get to the third, and then we'll start wrapping up the show.
There's several overlapping lessons, and it depends on, like, the daughter, it's like the invitation. It's like, my home is your home. Feel comfortable, be at peace. There's nothing to hide, but everything to exchange and change and reshape and to learn from. So it's a place of continued understanding that someone's presence is welcome when we're ready for change. If we're not ready for change, we want to push it out, right? And so in a way, it was a changing of the guard with her father. He's a professor, and he was, obviously everything he learned, he wanted to teach. And so I think it represents, it's like he's handing the baton to me. It's your turn to teach. It's your turn to stand on your soapbox and to sing like a bird your truth to your own inner sunshine, right? So, and not that it's more important than anybody else, but
that's where your book's coming.
Yeah. So it's something I need to do for myself because I was always an introvert. I was always distrustful, always closed off. And this leads to the last of 3 different connection points along the trail, and how it transformed me or what the meaning of it was, right? So the idea for him is like, it's my turn to do something that I never wanted to do because I never had the language for it, so I never had the understanding, because he went out trying to understand the world through archaeology and anthropology, and he got his version and his answer, and he shared his truth to the world. The whole idea of why I walk, which you always ask me over and over again, is because I was running away from something, but I was running towards something at the same time. And that's what everyone does in a sense. But then there comes a point where so the idea is that I didn't like what I was seeing in the world. I didn't like the anger. I didn't like the division. I didn't like the control and authority tactics. I didn't like what men represented. And I didn't like how women were treated, or I didn't like the dynamics, right? So I questioned it, I challenged it. And then I eventually was traumatized more, and I just left. I go, screw this, I'm going to Alaska. And in Alaska, I harmonized in very isolated areas. I was up in the Arctic Circle, I was in the Aleutian Islands, I was out near the Russian border, the ex-Soviet Union. I was living with just a few people, or by myself, or with groups of people, or a few hundred people, depending on the circumstance. And I was in what people call extreme weather, 50-mile-per-hour winds, 70-mile-per-hour winds, constant rain, cold, snow. And I learned to just be with it. And I felt the rawness of untainted nature. And once I harmonized with it, it was time for me to go. It was time for me to come back to the lower 48. Even though I would rather stay in Alaska, a part of me knew I had to come back. And it's almost like to face my fears, to face the authority figures.
I had that with Hawaii. That parallel, your Alaska parallels my Hawaii. I had to come back to the mainland. I had to come back.
With the aloha spirit. So it's the same thing, but it's along your theme and along your line, right? So we all have different themes and different ways and mechanisms, to process what it is that we're meant to integrate with our family lines, right? So I come back down to the wildest aspect of the lower 48, which is like the Olympic Peninsula, Olympic coastline, where the rawness of the ocean still comes in. In the wintertime, no one's there because it's, people would say, well, it's raining all the time. It's a rainforest. It's 30, 40, it's cold. It's, it doesn't meet the conditions then that somebody else would like to think it's time to be there, right? So, but I would live in it. In these situations, I would sleep in it, or I had to be okay with it, right? And then from that place, I learned different disciplines. I learned, what is Buddhism? What is all these different religions? What is spirituality? What is Native American philosophy? What is lucid dreaming? What is the paranormal experience? What are all these things that are trying to explain reality? And what are the words being described? What is quantum physics? What is the language being used? And people go, well, those are all different things. But no, they're all the same thing. They just have a different language to express that truth. And where people get lost is that, well, that's weird. You're doing this. It's like, well, everyone has a different ritual to get in that state of acceptance, that place of quiet mind. And so there's all these different methods to get into that status.
So Bernie, I'm gonna jump in because I want to bring us back to the third encounter. I want to stay a little bit linear.
Well, but nothing is linear, and it's like this goes right into the third encounter. So
not linear, but it goes into the third. Okay, beautiful. So if you're jumping on now or later, thank you for watching Live with Tania, and I'm so honored to have the opportunity. I want to share everybody that my linear self, I had my notes, and I also remained completely open to say, let me just hold space and see what evolves in this interview. And I do want to honor you for making history, and I do want to say again that Bernhard Krausse has made history. He is the first known hiker to walk the Great American Rail Trail 3,700 miles in 130 days from the Washington, D.C. capital to Washington State, La Push. He is a triple crown of hiking. He's hiked the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide Trail, and now the hiking of the Great American Rail Trail. adds him to the grand slam of hiking. If you watch this interview later, please replay this live. He shares his journey walking across Europe, returning to Austria to actually his mother's home, and what it means to be an American, what it means to be a European, what it means to be of both worlds. He talks about the quantum field is smooth until we untangle it. That there's no meaning other than what we define it as. And something that really jumped out in this, we were going on an hour and a half. Bernie talks often about it's through the stillness you process change. And this show is about intentional living and tools to anchor to our inner calm. What I've asked Bernie as we close out the show, I asked Bernie to share about 3 encounters that were real messages to him, and he is about to share that 3rd encounter.
Yeah, so from unknowingly, from this place of learning what the Olympic Peninsula represented to me, which I didn't even realize at the time until I actually came back to it, it was like, I'm coming full circle. It's like, and I've seen it with new eyes. I hadn't been there for 24 years, 22, 23 years or something like that, which it seemed like it was just yesterday. And it's like I was pushed out in the world, and my conduit was the hike, the pilgrimage, to answer the questions that I had as a child. What is going on here? Who am I? What's the meaning of life? What is love? And so I created a repertoire, a language. I learned different skills, different disciplines. I learned how to quiet my mind. And when I was ready, I was pushed out into the world, and I didn't come back until now. And to my unknowingness, it's like this trail represents almost the idea of why it was I hiked in the first place, to answer these questions, these existential questions that I had as a child, and to live the answer, to live the truth, to be what it is, to be the change that I want to see in the world without complaining about what's out there now, because it's all perfect as is. And that's another story in itself, right? So, and so I come back to the Olympic Peninsula, and I had been in contact with my friend Lynn, and I met her at Ozette at the first day, the first evening that I came back from Alaska. Well, not the first day, but when I settled into what I was going to do as a job as a sea otter researcher on the Olympic coast. I was a biologist. That's why I was in Alaska too. I was a biologist out there studying sea otters and doing seabird research and surveys. And so she knew I was coming, and she goes, "We need to catch up." And it didn't even seem like it had been over 22, 24 years. And I hadn't seen or talked with the person that I had been with for 7 years there. And I felt like, I feel like this is the time, not that there was anything wrong between she and I, but it was almost like a reset point. And I didn't know that she had just retired. And so everything was changing for her too. So the intention, her drive, the force that pushed her on her journey as, to go into her circle of learning, which was her job.
Bernie, where did you reconnect with Lynn on this last hike?
Yeah. So yes, and so the idea
And
is
where after Ellensburg? I'm just getting a timeline here. Was this after Ellensburg you connect with Lynn?
It was after Ellensburg, because the Olympic Peninsula is the last. It's just after Seattle.
Oh,
and you take ferries, and then you're on the Olympic Peninsula. It's almost like an isolated island to itself, but it's a peninsula, right? And so it's almost like you have to take these ferries to go to this unknown, uncharted land. And it's quite wild in some ways. And the epicenter of the peninsula is wild. It's Olympic National Park. And so there's all this, there's these concentric rings of different things going on along the peninsula, as if this park is a giant volcano, but it's not. It's just towering up across the sky. It's rooted deep in the earth, and it's surrounded by water, and it's in waterways and currents, and every aspect or every city represents a different kind of part of the psyche.
And so did you walk up to Lynn's door the same way you walked up to the new friends in Ellensburg?
I could have, but what happened was, I after spending a night with which is another story with the power of intention at a new friend's house in Port Townsend, I walked towards Squim, where I lived, And Lynn picked me up because she had talked to this person that I was with. And we decided that we are going to have a dinner together. And she invited Lynn and I and the district ranger that was there, who actually allowed me to live at the ranger station as a biologist, because I didn't officially work for the park. I worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but it was the same. It was Department of Interior. And so it was like a reunion of how it all came together, because Shelley was
That's
introduced.
amazing.
Yeah, the person I was with was introduced to me by Lynn. And so Lynn was the gateway for this relationship I had with this woman, Shelley. So, and so something, so I had to go out in the world. And so, I had to leave her world. I had to leave all that. And so, there's different forces that drive us in different directions. And so there's this chaos that happens in a relationship for these reasons that we don't even notice or recognize until later on, in a sense, right? And so you could see and feel what it is I learned from this process of going out in the world and coming back. And I could feel what she learned. And so it's like, we're both in a settled place. It's like, wow, okay, we both, so this energy, just as you and I are like intermingling on this new level.
So this encounter kind of gave you this moment to see how far, to witness where you had both come, to be able to measure the growth, kind of a measurement of the growth from the time you had met before.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the next day, after this wonderful party we had at the place I used to live at, which I hadn't seen for 24 years. And, but seeing it, it's like there was different layers of it. It's like, it's still the same, but there was more. There was like all these other layers of time and relationships that were overlaying it. It's like I could see it all in different eras, right? And the next day, I walked into Port Angeles, which is like the epicenter or park headquarters for Olympic National Park. And it's like this music scene, and Lynn is all about the community and music and much more than that. But and so she's bringing me into these circles, and it's like, oh my God, it's like there's this guy that I had met that had nothing to do with the Olympic Peninsula in the desert of the Mojave, where I did some desert tortoise work, and he remembered me. And he's all, yeah, it's like, I know your email address. It's Wayfaring Spirits, such. I'm all, oh my God, I haven't heard that in like 25 years, or whatever. So
yeah, 6 degrees of separation is real, huh?
And he goes, keep doing what you're doing because you stand out. You're on the right track. Keep doing that. And it's like a verification, like, being seen in the way that I'm being seen has an effect. And not that it matters, but it does to the ego. It's almost like
it matters to me. That's why I invited you on this show in this present moment. You matter. And I want to take a pause here. I want to take a pause for you to hear what he said and to hear what I'm saying.
Okay.
You are emanating radiant light. And the first time I connected with you was because there was this light. And you literally walk your talk. You are a master hiker. You are is a Grand Slam, right? Is that what it's called? Grand Slam. You are now a Grand Slam of hiking. I want to honor you. Everyone watching, Bernie has become a dear friend. I was almost going to go to La Push, but I wasn't able to get there that day, but I was there in spirit. I have been watching this man walk and walk and walk. And I keep saying, who is Bernie Krausse? What's your message to so many people who might really be feeling stuck?
I guess it depends on who I'm reflecting off of to answer that
Let me flip the script. Let me flip the script. Because rather than staying in the stuck, I'd love to close with a few words on this. I'm flipping my script because I don't like that question. I'm going to flip it to there's always a new frontier. So if you are watching and you are feeling stuck, there is always, I want to pull us to the higher vibration that you can walk your talk, and in the stillness, you can manifest the life that's calling your soul. In the stillness, you can heal to awaken to the canvas you want to paint in your life. And as Bernie said, there's always a new frontier. And when you live in the frontier of the inside out, you can manifest the life that's calling your soul, whatever that dream is.
Right.
And that to manifest the dream takes walking your talk. This is a man who has just made history, who has walked across America. Bernie, please close this show with a moment of inspiration, as you always do.
Okay, so let's follow along the lines of what I was just saying about how I actually ended the whole trip. And that will open the door to your question and your answer. Is that after Port Angeles, I had like 2 more days of walking. And I went through Olympic National Park, along Lake Crescent, through tunnels. And I came out into La Push, which is basically near Cape Lava up to the north is where I did a lot of my work. I spent a lot of time. La Push is an Indian reservation. It's a Coulee reservation. And I realized, I had spent a lot of times on reservations, just as you have. And I realized, you know what? I've been on a reservation all my life and I didn't even know it. I've been reserved. I've been protected. And I've been waiting for the time to germinate, for the time to break open something that's needed in the world. And so everybody is needed in the world, but in a way they're a seed that's constantly being watered, and there's something mixing, there's enzymes, there's different things, and we're rearranging our insides like a seed, and suddenly the right combination happens and poof, it breaks open, and then there's light. And then it's like your perspective changes. You were underground, and you come out to the surface and you see something completely new. You see an overview of where you were beneath you. You see a new overhead. You see where things are coming from. And so I reached the end of the world. I reached, close to the westernmost point of the lower 48. And it's the place where new things come to shore. It represents, just as you walk across Europe and you finish at Santiago, but you don't finish, you go to Murcia or you go to Finisterre, the actual end of the world. And it represents tapping into the sea of consciousness. It's like you give away something, you let something go, like in Lent. It's like, I no longer need this. I don't need this identity anymore. I don't need this pain anymore. I don't need this suffering. I give it back to the ocean, and whatever waves come up my way, I will absorb without resistance, without need to have erosion happen to me in an extreme way. There's nothing to erode if there's no ego identity. And there's nothing wrong with the ego identity. But you know that when something's knocking at your door, it's for you. And so you open yourself and trust that everything that is reflected upon you, that comes to mind, is designed for your own storyline and for your own experience, for your own pleasure, for your own growth. And so I came full circle, and my friends Lynn and Shelley were there, and because we all that's where we all.
Wait, did they meet? Were they there? Who was at La Push at the end? Were they there at La Push?
They were there. They celebrated.
Amazing.
We went out to dinner. We went into the beach. I jumped in the ocean. I baptized myself in a new moment.
Amazing.
And so the people that matter to me the most in that arena, in that circle, in what the Olympic Peninsula represents to me. You could say that, Squim represents something to me, Port Townsend, Port Angeles, OZ, the coast. These are all separate containers. But as what the Olympic Peninsula represents to me, it's like we have that all in common. It's like we had different pathways, but we're learning the same lesson. And it's almost like we're all arriving in the same place at the same time in a convoluted maze that has the same ending point. And so I would say that the lesson is that we aren't who we think we are. It's like, because the thinking it's like we're all wearing costumes. And when we master a costume and we have fun of it, like in Halloween, I'm born on Halloween, then you enter a place of All Saints Day, a place where you take what you are afraid of, because we're almost always all afraid to be who we are. So you ask, who is Bernie Krausse? That's a relative question. Who is Bernie? Who is Krausse? Who is Bernie Krausse? Who is Bernhard Krausse? Who is Bernhard Krausse? I just am. So in a way,
there it is. There it is. There it is. I just am. Bernie, I think that is the place for us to breathe.
All right.
Let's breathe and close with I just am. So, everybody, that's it. So, my friend said yes to becoming present. And I'm so thankful that I let go of end times. You know, a lot of shows would be like, we're done in 30, we're done in an hour. But I'm my own producer, so I have no end time. And I am is consciousness. And everybody, if you're watching, I do really do want to honor you as having made history. Like, you have been so consistent, so disciplined, so committed to moving, to healing, to transforming, to growing. I have watched the photography, the stories, the eloquence in your writing, capturing all the exchanges in the landscape. And this is a man who has made history, not because, oh, I'm Bernie and I want to make history. No, this is a man who I see who has walked into consciousness of self mastery. And he opened the show talking about becoming a master of something. Yes, he is a master hiker. And I want to honor Bernhard Krausse for having just made history. This incredible man right here has oh, my battery's about to die, so maybe this is good timing to be closing. And I don't have a charger, but I do want to say this for folks in closing of the show to recap that this incredible human being is the first known hiker. He has made history walking across the Great American Rail Trail, 3,700 miles in 130 days. He started in a moment of reflection with no people around him in our thumbnail picture, just a moment of quiet on March 28th. At Washington, D.C., at our nation's capital, and walked across the country to Washington State, where he celebrated and jumped in the water and was greeted by people who had been symbolic and important to him along his life journey, who were there to celebrate the end. I was doing an energetic celebration from Pendleton, Oregon. And he is also a double, triple crown hiker, triple crown of hiking. He's hiked the Appalachian Trail, he's hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, he's hiked the Continental Divide and Trail. And this hike now, the Great American Rail Trail, has now moved him to the Grand Slam of hiking. Please watch this later if you're just jumping on now. He shares his journey walking across Europe, returning to the home of his mother in Austria. And I want to just close by saying, I love you, my friend. I honor you. Keep shining, keep radiating. Please don't ever delete your Facebook, because his Facebook has these photographs that go way beyond National Geographic. They are a timeless documentation of a country that Americans often forget because we're caught up in a pandemic of busy. And Bernie Krausse's journey, his legacy, his walking will always be that reminder of gratitude for this incredible nation we live in and this vast landscape from the cities and out to the vastness. And you have shown us that. You have allowed us to walk through these pockets of America that many will never see because they're at work 9 to 5 and may not have the luxury to get to walk across America. And your gift is you brought that to everybody who was at work. You brought that to everyone in the future who will look at that in the future, who may play this again in the future. I want to thank you for coming on Live with Tania, a YouTube podcast. Everybody, just for timing and history, it is August 16th, 2026. Maybe you're watching this in 20. Oh, that was interesting. I think my phone's about to die. Bernie Krausse. Let's close with I am. So out of all the walking, it's not about who is Bernie Krausse. Bernie has walked into self-mastery of inner transformative conscious. Oh, you lost me.
I
You
can't
lost
hear
me.
you. So
Okay, bye. Bye.
bye. It was a pleasure. Ciao.